Because of this, it's not a surprise that Bitcoin did drop in value today. This is why the market is mostly red right now. Now, I did say in my earlier video that we need to keep an eye on lower time frame support. If we start to lose those levels of support, we will aim for deeper lows. That's exactly what took place today. Okay, this is why we keep an eye on these lows and plan for every possible outcome in this place. Now that we look at Bitcoin, that drop isn't that big, right? 100 to 21.4K drop every day, or 2.2%. Ethereum is down about 5.1%. XRP is down about 4.4%. A lot of old coins have gone up in value. BNB just changed the value of XRP. That's crazy. It's gone up 25.9% in the last week. In addition, there have been a lot of improvements in the market over the last week. But you know, I'm not really worried about the fact that old coins are going crazy right now and everyone is saying, oh, well, there you have it. Isn't it alt season? For some reason, I keep seeing these influencers, mostly on X, say that the season starts now. At this point, there is no clear sign that tells us we are in alt season. I don't think we're seeing old season yet, but I do think we're seeing the beginning of it, which is showing us how crazy old coins can move when they start to take over the space. To say it again, I don't think we are in alt season right now. Okay, so the last week has been pretty good for crypto. Let's look at the last week. So let's take a look at Bitcoin. This is how it has looked over the last week. It is up about 6.11%. Okay, so the price is around 121.4 or almost 121.5K. It seems like there is resistance around 122 or 18K. If we think about it, we do want to see this resistance broken over, but until then, it will be accepted. We did reach a high point of 126.2K. Guys, you can see that this is a big drop off in the last 24 hours. Should we be scared? Anyway, we shouldn't be too worried unless Bitcoin starts to break through important support zones, which we'll talk about next. But I'd like to watch my movie from earlier today. Also, I uploaded this around noon. Pay close attention to what I say, because I'm going to repeat exactly what I said and give you guys a new perspective on how things will soon change so that we have a much bigger sell-off on the higher time frame structure. We do need to keep an eye on some lows, though, when we look at this thing over the course of 3 hours. As an example, this low from the 5th is all we need to do to really get things going. If we stay below this level, around 122.7K, Bitcoin will keep going up a lot. We will start to aim for more lows on this chart if we lose this one. The next one would be about 121.7K, and the next one would be 119.9K. That's why we pay attention to the system. I said on X that this positive structure is the most important thing to look for in the space to tell if something is going to go much higher. So far, Bitcoin has been in a bullish shape for the last few days. That is until now, because the main goal now is to break through some of the previous lows. We have become bearish on the lower time frame. Does that mean we don't think Bitcoin will go up in value? Not at all. It's just that we're in a younger time frame. You can see that we lost the first big low, which was around 122, which is about 6K. That was lost. It was clear how important it was to lose that because we went straight below the next support zone, which was 121.7K. These two support zones are no longer in the way. We lost them for good. About 2.1K of resistance was what we found. We're going to the past. Is there a lot of opposition here? Actually, not quite, but there have been times when we spiked above or around it and then completely turned it down. Yes, there will be some fighting around that level. Then we'll look at 119.9K as the next important support zone. Now, it's not clear if we'll take this out, but if we do, we need to know what stages we'll be going after we lose it. Taking a daily look at this thing right now, at the moment, it looks like we're trying to cut around this level and build some support. In terms of shorter time frames, it tells us that this backing is not very strong. We still need to be careful, though. A blue zone on the chart is the main thing I'm looking at here. We'll talk about that in a moment, but for now, we're looking at keeping previous highs. So the first important thing I would be looking at is whether or not the area between 119.9K and 120K holds. This is where all of the previous highs were, and I don't think I need to tell you that they were all resistance. This is where we would start to break down below these highs, turning them into resistance. And here's another important area of resistance that we would have to get through in order to push to the upside. In addition, if we lose these highs, we will test the next highs on the chart, which are further down in the 16.6K to 118.2K range. This is another reason why we want to keep those earlier highs. We do not want to face more resistance at a time when we are already facing a lot of resistance on the lower time frame structure. We also have the resistance levels from August and the resistance levels we just hit. The most important thing now is to find support above some important highs. I'd love to see support above the highs from July, but it looks like we might have a full flush back down to the highs from September. Is that the end of the world? It's not though. We'll still be holding higher lows and then we'll start going after higher highs, especially on shorter time frames. But after that, we'd also look at the macros. Again, this latest move on Bitcoin doesn't worry me too much. I'm also not too worried about it. Today, there was also a sell-off in Ethereum. Okay, let's be honest. Ethereum has been pretty dull for the past couple of weeks. We did try to test that old high again, going all the way back to September. Not able to do that. We turned it down. Now we're just going to watch this chop around a bit until we start to see XRP make a higher high on this chart. XRP has been in this chopping shape for a while now. I have talked about it here and there. I've talked about this before in other videos. But the important thing about XRP is that a lot of people say that it will reach a certain dollar amount by the end of the month or something. One reason we don't want XRP to break through a few levels is that it faces a lot of obstacles. Also, that makes sense when it comes to XRP, right? It was not our intention for XRP to hit some important lows, but it did. Now, we have support around $35 for XRP, especially on the daily chart. Around $3.13, there is pushback. We're running into trouble around $3.33. There is also resistance around $3.56. And yes, that resistance level looks a little different when we look at this on a weekly scale, but we still need to break over more than 3 core levels on this chart for XRP to remain strong. XRP made a better low recently, which was great, but we still need better highs. That being said, XRP won't be very strong on the chart until then, so all we need to do is focus on the system. Besides that, what is one big event this month that we are getting ready for? The Fed should shock these markets, though. We've been keeping to some of the main dates even this week. The FOMC minutes are tomorrow. Then on October 9th, we get the Fed's balance sheet as well. Then on the 10th, we get the Michigan shopper sentiment. It's very important to pay attention to these times. Also, I believe everyone always says, oh, the Fed doesn't matter. We don't even need to think about the Fed. At the time, we need to pay full attention to the Federal Reserve Fed. This is because, once more, we are waiting to see what the Federal Reserve does next to stop inflation. Because even though it looks good in the short term, for technical reasons, it's very bad that the Fed is cutting rates right now to fight inflation. Now, we have a little something to warn us about going into 2026.